Hi there. In this What's New webinar, we're going to be taking a look at all the new features that have been made available in version 1.39. The new version will be available from the App Exchange as of Friday the 16th of December. We've got a lot of things to run through today, and hopefully you'll agree that this release is jam-packed with goodies just in time for Christmas. And even if we do so ourselves, we're really excited, and there's some awesome new features included in this release. So at a high level, let's just take a quick look at what's included. So taking a look at the major new features that are coming, we've got a new object that's coming in underneath the action called the checklist items. One thing we're very excited to announce is the new Kanban Whiteboard. That's going to bring a lot more functionality over and above the existing whiteboard. We've also introduced recurring milestones and actions, and we've added a number of enhancements to the Gantt chart and to the recently added billing event features as well. In addition to the major features, we're addressing some minor enhancements and some known issues, and we'll cover those off at the end. So let's dive in and check out the new features. A new checklist item object has been added to Mission Control as a child to the action object. It will enable you to keep track of key items that need to be completed as part of delivering an action. It will serve as a simple checklist of items that can be ticked off as they're completed. For example, if I have an action to deliver training for my client, my checklist items might include things like book the training room, issue an agenda, prepare training slides, and issue the post-survey response. The key attributes to any checklist item are what needs to be done, who's going to do it, and has it been done. As you can see in the example on screen here, I've got 4 checklist items underneath my action for deliver training, and I can simply check them off as and when they've been completed. You're able to create new checklist items from the Create Actions page and from the new whiteboard. Let's take a look at how we go about creating checklist items from the Create Actions page. You'll see on this example I'm about to create an action to deliver the training, and I now have access to the checklist items icon. I can simply click on that. That will open up a modal window that lets me add in as many checklist items as I need. Once I've created the checklist items, I click on Save, and that's sitting there ready to be created along with my action. As I've just mentioned earlier, we can also create and edit checklist items directly from the new whiteboard, which we're going to take a look at later on in the webinar. You're also able to access the checklist item tab from the menu navigation, so you can access the object's homepage. This will allow you to access the dynamic list view that will show you all of the checklists that are assigned to yourself. You'll be able to manage them all from one place, doing an inline edit if you need to update a number of checklist items to complete in one go. We're super excited to be introducing you to our new Kanban whiteboard. It's jam-packed with a range of cool features, including being able to dynamically adjust the column headings, adjust the summary field, collaborate directly on the chatter feed for individual actions. You're able to manage the checklist items for each action. You can also log time and also track time against the action. You now have the ability to edit the action and access the resource assignment wizard to manage the contributors, and you can also build out new actions directly from the whiteboard. You can quickly reassign ownership from one role to another, and you can also adjust the filters and the settings for the individual sticky note cards on the whiteboard as well. So let's jump in and take a look at the new whiteboard. We hope you'll agree that it's got a fresh new look, but as well as a new look, it's got some amazing cool features. So first of all, let's take a look at an individual card. What it's showing me is the PAN number for the individual action. I have links through to the action, the milestone, and the project. I also have the ability to view the start date, the end date, total hours scheduled, total hours completed, and the completion percentage. But I'll show you later in the webinar how we can actually adjust these 5 values to our own particular preferences. I also get this indicator that telling me that my end date is approaching. So if my end date is within the next 2 days, I will get this warning appear. I can see who the action owner is. I also get the ability to see that this action has contributors on it. If I click on this icon, it takes me straight through to the chatter feed for the action. I'll be able to collaborate with my colleagues directly from the whiteboard here. I'm able to click on this icon to access the action checklist. I'm able to tick off checklist items that I've completed. I can also add in new checklist items. I have the ability to log time. This window allows me to log time historically, so I can put in whether I've done some time, click on the log time button. Alternatively, I'm able to start tracking time, so then I can go away, do the work, come back to the action, click the clock again, and it will present me with a stop tracking time button. Another feature available on the whiteboard is the ability to edit the action. If I click on this, you can see that it opens up and provides me with access to all of the key fields on the record. It also gives me an indicator here that I have contributors on this action. So to manage those, I can jump into the resource assignment wizard, manage my contributors allocation, and even search for additional contributors to help out. Now, obviously we're used to being able to drag and drop things from one column to the next, and we still have that capability on the whiteboard. As I mentioned earlier, we have the ability to dynamically adjust which field is driving the columns. So as you can see at the moment, I'm currently looking at the status field, and I can see planned, in progress, on hold, complete, etc. I can adjust that column heading by any one of these values here. So for example, if I want to look at the priority instead of the status, I can simply select that and it will adjust the headings for me. You can see it has reorganized all of the actions based on their priority value. What I'm also able to do is drag across any actions, moving them from one column to the other to update the priority setting for that individual record. Now I also have the ability to choose from any of these other fields. So for example, I could display the actions based on the action owner, and that will reorganize them again based on who owns the actions. I could drag and drop to reassign. Another option is to select the milestone. Now in order to be able to group by milestone, what I first of all have to do is filter down to one particular project. Once I've applied that filter, I can now choose to display based on milestone. So you can see here I've got a number of items in my backlog, and I've got a couple of things added into the first sprint and into the second sprint. What I'm able to do is drag and drop and reparent these actions from one milestone to another, and you'll see that it's dynamically increasing the hours remaining for each individual sprint. If I want to load up the next one, I can simply keep dragging and dropping into there and make sure I'm happy with the allocations that I've got in each sprint. Clicking on the reset button will remove the filters. Now, in addition to being able to change the column headings, I also have the ability to change the summary field. So this field here, that's displaying currently the total hours remaining against all of the actions within that status. I have the option to change to any one of these fields, pulling in the data from the individual action records. As well as being able to edit existing actions, I also have the ability to add new actions directly from the whiteboard. So if we're currently in a project whip, we can add new actions as the team are discussing them, rather than having to jump off to individual projects to create those. Another feature of the new whiteboard is the ability to reassign ownership from one person to another. As you can see here, we have an action that is owned by Chris that is currently on hold. Now that might be because of his capacity. So what I can do over on the right hand side is see a list of all of my roles within Mission Control. Now I can filter down to find people with the right skill set or the right team assignment. But what I'm able to do once I've found that right person is drag their photo over on top of the existing owner, and that will transfer ownership of this action over to the new person. One of the final features I'd like to show you is how you can adjust the 5 values here that are being displayed for your own preferences. I can jump into the settings page here and choose which fields from the action object I want to display on the card. By default, as I've mentioned, it comes with the start date, end date, total hours scheduled, total hours completed, and completion percentage. If I want to change any one of these values, I can simply adjust it. Click on save, and then that will be remembered every time I visit the whiteboard. You can see now it's changed from the completion percentage to show me the priority value. We anticipate you're going to find many new ways to use the whiteboard, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. You're now able to set milestones and their actions to be recurring, or you can set individual actions to be recurring. The process is slightly different for each option, so what we'll do is go through each one in a bit more detail. So first of all, looking at recurring milestones and actions. A milestone can now be set to be recurring, and this will recur the milestone and its actions along with their checklist items and contributors. To set a milestone as recurring, you need to specify 3 key fields on the record. So let's jump in and take a look at that. This example project, I'm running an SEO campaign on a monthly basis for a client. So what I want to do is actually set up an existing milestone and all of their actions to be recurring. So what I'll do first of all is show you I've got my milestone. I've got 3 actions all running for December. So what I'm going to do now is set this up to be recurring. So I can do that by jumping into the milestone page and clicking on edit. Alternatively, I can just edit straight from the Gantt chart. So I'll do that now. So I can specify that it's going to be recurring, and then I can specify the frequency. My options are daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually. So in this example, I'm going to set this up to be monthly, and what I want to do is recur it another 3 times because this is a 4-month campaign. So click on save, and what I'll do is just save that detail against the Gantt chart. When the milestone status is set to complete, the next recurrence of that milestone, along with the actions, contributors, and checklist items, will be created. So what I'll do is just jump onto the whiteboard, and you'll see what we've got here is 2 of our 3 actions that are already being completed. So once we actually go through and mark this one off as complete, in the background what will happen is the new milestone will actually get recurred along with all of the actions. So we'll just jump back onto the project overview to see what's happened there. As I scroll down, you can see a new instance of that milestone has been created along with the 3 actions ready to be planned out for the following month. So what you can see is it takes the existing milestone name and just appends a 1 in the brackets at the start. So what I'll need to do is just jump in and adjust that name so it's reflective of December. But again, what I can do there is just jump in on the whiteboard and make that change. The 1 in the brackets can be removed if you want it to be. It's simply there to indicate that that's the first recurrence of the milestone. If I jump into this milestone now, you'll see that we've got the recurring settings section, so we can see that it is recurring. The frequency is monthly. There are 3 recurrences to happen altogether, and this is the first recurrence, and therefore there are 2 more remaining. So when we set this one to be complete, number 2 will be created, and that will have a recurring recurrences remaining value of 1. Ultimately, when we get to the final one and it has a 0 there, when that's marked as complete, no further recurrences will be created. As I've mentioned, actions can also be set to be recurring. These operate slightly differently from milestones, whereas the milestone will be recurred once the original milestone has been marked as complete, the action will be recurred immediately. You have the same options of specifying whether the action is recurring, the recurring frequency, and the number of recurrences you want to recur. When an action is created or updated and has been set to is recurring, the relevant number of additional actions will immediately be created, but changing the start date, end date, the baseline dates, and it will also copy over contributors and checklist items. Let's jump in and just build out a quick example. So in my January SEO monthly campaign, I might need to add in a recurring action where I'm going to be doing some daily checks. So what I can do is just click on new action here, put in the details, now here what I can do is specify that it's going to be recurring. Then I'll set the frequency, so I want this to be a daily thing, and what I'm going to do is recur that for another 3 instances, so I'll be creating it for the 4 days consecutively. So when I click on save, if we jump back up to the milestone, you'll see, as well as creating my original daily checks of keywords action, I've also immediately created another 3 instances of that, consecutively adding 1 day at a time. So just to summarize, each action created as part of the recurring process will have the same field values as the original, except for the name, which we can see is the same apart from having the prefix of the number of recurrences it is, and the status will be set to planned regardless of whether the original was complete. We anticipate the recurring milestones and actions to be very useful for clients that do have those ongoing monthly or weekly or daily instances where they have a specific task to perform every month or on a recurring basis. And certainly we encourage you to provide your feedback on how you're going to be using this feature. Within this release, a number of new features have been added to the Gantt chart, both directly onto the Gantt chart itself and onto the PDF output. The new features include being able to visualize the milestone deadline on the Gantt chart, being able to view baseline dates, being able to access the checklist items on the Gantt chart, and specify the sorting of the order in which actions appear within a milestone if they all appear on the same date. In addition to that, we've also added in the ability to brand the PDF. Let's jump in and take a look at these new features. You'll see here on this example Gantt chart that I've got my milestone, and if I hover over that you can see that I've got a deadline of the 16th of December. If I scroll down you can see that the milestone deadline has been plotted onto the Gantt chart, so I can visualize making sure that none of my actions are going beyond that deadline. In addition to that, I can toggle on both the checklist items and the baseline dates. To switch on the baseline dates, I simply check this button here, and you can see that that adds in a ghosted version of the actions being driven by the baseline dates. So the baselines show us where the original dates were scheduled. So in this example, this action here was originally scheduled for the Monday and has been subsequently rescheduled to be done on the Tuesday. If I scroll down, you'll see some other indications of where we've had to delay the action and increase the number of days that it will be done over. But I can see where the originals were set to. I also have the ability to toggle on or off the checklist items. So by pulling in the checklist items, I can see the individual checklist item records that are sitting under each of the actions. I can't edit or reschedule individual checklist items, but if I reschedule the parent action, all of the related checklist items will be brought forward with that. One of the features that we've also included is the ability to sort the order in which the actions appear if they're all scheduled for the same date. Previously, they were typically sorted by the order in which they were created. Now, if we double click to edit the action, you'll see that we've got a Gantt sort order field on the record. Now we can put in a value there, and it's a number field, so it can be 1, 2, 3, or a decimal like I've got here, and that will drive the order in which the actions are displayed. So if you need to add in a new action in between these two, you can simply add it in and then adjust the sort order for the actions. A number of enhancements have been made to enable you to brand the Gantt chart PDF should you want to send that to a client, including the ability to display your own company logo, a secondary logo, for example if you're wanting to include the client's logo onto the Gantt chart, as well as being able to specify a custom title on the chart, and you are also able to load in the baseline dates and the checklist items. So what I'll do first of all is just click onto the PDF export button to show you we've got the ability to adjust the title. So by default it loads in the project name, but you can override that if you want to. And before we jump in and export that PDF, I'll just show you on the console, we've got now the ability to specify a logo that you want to appear on the Gantt chart. So you'd simply look up the documents folder and then specify the logo that you want to use. So that would be your own company logo as an example, and that will appear on every single Gantt chart PDF. Now in addition to that, as I say, you can also specify a secondary logo on a per project basis. So if I jump into my project as an example here, I've already entered the URL of a logo that I want to include whenever I generate a PDF of the Gantt chart for this project. So if we jump back onto the project overview and click on the PDF export, I'm just going to click on export there. And you can see what it's done is put in the project name as the title, and it's pulled in my company logo on the left hand side, and the logo on the right hand side is the one that I've specified on the project. I can also see the milestone deadlines in there as well. Now if I want to include the checklist items or the baselines, what I can do is jump back in to that project and just load those in there. So if I make those visible and then I click on PDF export, now in this instance I'm going to be using the raw export because we need to use the raw export option if we want to include the baselines. So I'm going to click on export again. When I open that up this time, you can see that it's brought in the baseline information, and I can also view the individual checklists as well. One final small enhancement we've made to the Gantt chart is providing you with the ability to actually embed the Gantt chart directly onto the standard page layout. So the only way of accessing it currently is via the project overview or on the standalone Gantt chart from the console. If I jump onto the standard page layout and I'll scroll down, and you can see that I've been able to add the Gantt chart directly onto this page as well. So I don't need to pull it into the project overview anymore. I can simply embed it onto this page. So to do that, I would simply edit the page layout. I have added in a new section already called Gantt chart, and I'll just show you that I've set that to be 1 column width. And then what I would do is go to Visual Force Pages and ensure that the Gantt chart is dragged down into that section. So it's already on there now, and what I would do is adjust those settings to be 750 pixels in height. And that will allow me to access the Gantt chart directly from that standard page layout. We've received some great feedback from clients that are already using the billing event functionality that was released as part of version 1.36. Part of that feedback was the need for different business entities to be able to generate the invoices, and for some of our international clients, they wanted to be able to override the template labels for the PDF into their own local languages. We're pleased to announce both of these features are now available. Using the tax rate object, you're now able to override the business entity details, including the company name, address, business number, logo, and invoice footer notes, as well as overriding the template labels, which you're able to translate into any other language to suit your own terminology. Now, if you're actually operating as a single business entity and you don't wish to override any of the template labels, then you do not need to utilize these new features. If you don't override any of the values, all of the existing settings will be applied to the invoice PDF. So let's take a look at how we can override these values. You'll see here I have a tax rate record for sales tax. The company details override section has been left blank, and the PDF template override section has also been left blank. So what this means is it's going to take the default values. Now I have a project already in the system that is using the sales tax label. Now I have a billing event record that has already been created, so when I view the PDF, you can see that it's already referencing the sales tax record. So when I click on view PDF, it will display in the default settings, so it's pulling in my corporate company logo, it's pulling in the standard settings from my business address, and it's not overridden any of the labels on the PDF. Now what I've done is also created a second sales tax record, so it's the same sales tax rates, but it's for a different business entity, so I'm just giving it a different name. So I'm indicating that it's for Mission Control, and it's going to be a German translation. So within the company details override section, you can see that I've put in the details of the separate business unit. I've put in the business address, put in the business number, specified the logo ID that I need to I want a reference to include in the PDF, and any footer notes and so on. Similarly, I've also added in the details for the PDF labels to be overridden, and I've specified the German translations for each one of these labels that I've got here. Now, if I go to that project and say I'm no longer using sales tax, I actually want to use the Mission Control German translation. If I save that, now if I go back to my record and click on the View PDF again, you'll see that it's pulling in the new logo, it's pulling in the new business details, and it's overridden all of the labels with my German translations. One final thing that we've added in is the ability for you to remove the Mission Control logo that is being displayed at the bottom of the PDF. If you want to remove that logo, simply make sure that this field is set to true and click on Update, and then that will take effect. We've also added in a number of minor enhancements and addressed some known issues within Mission Control as part of this release. One of those is a field set on the role object. Previously, if you had added your own custom fields to the role object, the only way of adding values to these fields was via a list view inline edit. To enable you to add them to the role edit visual force page, a custom field set has been included on the page. To add your own custom fields to the field set, you simply navigate to the field set within the role object and drag your required fields into that field set. Another feature that has been enhanced is the ability to disable the chatter feed roll-up. We've had a request from some clients to provide the ability to disable the feed roll-up, as they have found too much activity is clogging up their team collaboration. We have therefore included a setting to disable this feature within the project automation section on the console. To disable this feature, simply check the box and click the update button. The event trigger has also been enhanced to enable you to update the end date of the action if the end date of the event is changed. Please note this does not impact the hours scheduled values. A known issue on the sidebar time logger has also been fixed. Previously, when trying to update the action status while using the log time button, where the status was not updating. This has been addressed in this release. And finally, the PMO dashboard filters have been changed. One of the filters has been removed from the PMO dashboard logic that was removing projects with a status of complete. Now, a project will only be removed from the PMO dashboard when the archived field is set to true, or if the display on the PMO dashboard field is set to false. That's the end of the What's New webinar, guys, and we hope you're as excited as we are to see all of these awesome new features, and we look forward to your feedback. As I mentioned at the start, the upgraded version is now available from the App Exchange, so simply go to the App Exchange, click on the Get It Now button, and you can go through the upgrade process. There are a number of fields that have been added to various objects throughout Mission Control. They're all detailed in the release notes, and we encourage you to add those to your page layouts. And as always, if you've got any feedback on any of the features within this release, or you have any ideas for new features going forward, we'd always love to hear from you. Best of luck, guys, and have a happy Christmas.